Re-Zero, Arc 7, Chapter 79, A Roar of Scarlet Laughter.
Priscilla's sudden appearance had brought forth a whirlwind through the power of her words. But at that moment, a certain silence and blankness pervaded the hall, giving everyone the illusion that time had stopped. It was a statement that could not be misheard, but she didn't quite understand what it meant. She couldn't get the meaning correctly from the sound. That's the impression she had. Dear mother, it took some time for her to search her brain for the word that the sound means. However, Emilia, Yorna is Priscilla's mother. Emilia tilted her head curiously, and as soon as a different sound for mother came forth from her, dear mother and mother connected, and she understood the essence of dear mother and mother. Controlling the fluttering sensation in his own head, Otto compared the two people who had his attention, Yorna and Priscilla. Yorna, who was staring at her, unable to move, and Priscilla, who was looking at the former with a calm expression. They had different hair and eye colors, and they were of different races to begin with. Of course, in the case of mixed blood, there were individual differences in which the blood of a parent was stronger, but Priscilla and Yorna had no similarities in appearance. If one could say so, they both had lustrous good looks. But, Otto, if we treated people like family at that level, the world would be full of big families. Concluding this, Otto held his confusion in check. Still, hearing about Priscilla and Yorna's relationship made some sense. Priscilla's stern attitude and personality certainly gave off a strong sense of imperial style. Priscilla, I can feel the unpleasant eyes that are fixed on myself, but that's okay. Otto gasped at the warning look in Priscilla's eyes, reading the intent of her gaze. Leaving Otto aside, Priscilla looked at Emilia and said, Priscilla, half-devil, it is as you say. To think that she had become one of the 9 divine generals. Since I was a child I supposed so, but how strange it is. Yorna, well, I'm surprised. But now that you mention it, I guess we both look a lot alike. Priscilla supported her chin with the fan in her hand, and Emilia nodded in reply. Just before, Otto had denied to himself any similarities in external appearance between the two, so while Emilia's unexpected judgment worried him, he had set that aside for the time being. The problem was, Yorna, wait. Priscilla's words were deterred by Yorna herself, who had been unexpectedly singled out by her. She closed her eyes for a moment, and erased the apparent turmoil from her expression. Yorna, I was a little surprised, but that is an unacceptable statement. Why do you think I am the Lord's mother? Priscilla, stop making up trifling evasions. If you plan to trick me, you must change your soul. No matter how you change your appearance, you cannot deceive my scarlet eyes. Yorna, HK. Yorna's calm expression tightened again at Priscilla's decisive response. Priscilla's language was conceptual and, in addition, held no intention to compromise with others. This made it hard to take in the exact meaning of what was said, but it seemed to have been fatal to Yorna. Yorna was clearly flustered by Priscilla's gaze and the sharpness of her tongue. However, Yorna wasn't the only one who showed strong turmoil on this occasion. Absurd. Clearly, the amazement towards the situation at hand spilled over. It was faint, so faint that it could have been missed, but it was coming from the other party, and Otto did not miss the voice that spilled out from behind the Oni mask. Abel, a man who seemed cool-headed rather than calm and unperturbed, made that one comment. Priscilla, he called out, while hiding the slight agitation behind his mask. Abel, are you serious? Yorna Miss Higure is Sandra Benedict. Priscilla, I see, you don't know that either, Abel. I don't blame you. I have no way of knowing except by my own words. Emilia, but, you noticed that Priscilla isn't being told anything, right? Priscilla, don't interrupt me. Shut up, you half-devil. Emilia, you don't have to say it that way. Priscilla, who responded to Abel's question in a nonchalant manner, glared at Emilia, who had interrupted her, in order to silence her. Whatever the case may be, this was an exchange that left out those in the kingdom, including Otto, and those in the empire who did not know what was going on. Otto was especially interested in the content that delved into Priscilla's internal affairs, as she was also a candidate for the royal selection, but, Garfield, put off the unexpected reunion talk. Right now, the priority is this kid's story. Garfield snarled as he bared his fangs, undaunted by the change in the air. The opponent who those green eyes pierced was Louis, still protected by Yorna and Medium. Garfield was right, they could not move forward or backward until they decided what to do with her. Of course, the conclusion in Otto's mind that Louis should be restrained and deprived of her freedom was unassailable. Garfield, my amazing self isn't saying to kill her, but I'm saying to tie her up and roll her over. That's the one thing I won't compromise. Tino's limbs are going away. Al, that's probably going to be something Bro doesn't want to hear. Garfield, huh? Garfield, who concurred with Otto, bared his fangs at the remark. The person who interrupted them was Al, who had come up to the top level with Priscilla. He was still the same eccentric-looking guy, scratching the nape of his neck with his one-armed hand in a somewhat unenthusiastic manner. Al, first of all, let me apologize to you first. I'm sorry I couldn't bring Bro home after we went to Chaos Flame together. Emilia, Al. No, thanks for apologizing. But I'm not the only one disappointed that I didn't get to meet Subaru. Beatrice is the one disappointed the most. Al, oh, then I'm sorry to that child and to the others as well. Al bowed his head as he uttered an apology for Subaru's absence. Al's usual frivolous attitude notwithstanding, his apology seemed genuine. However, a sincere apology does not necessarily lead to forgiveness or a good impression. Otto, if anything, an easy apology will only increase the number of people who will take advantage of you. In fact, if you're willing to apologize, I would prefer that you don't interfere. Al, that's harsh. But, as I said earlier, doing such a thing to this lil girl is something that Bro Natsuki Subaru doesn't wish for. Garfield, so, why the hell? You're just saying random things. Al, I too, tried to kill the lil one and was stopped by Bro. Garfield's irritated words were drowned out by Al's thirsty words. At this gasped response, Al shrugged his shoulders and nodded at Louis. Al, you guys are like that. Isn't it natural that I consider killing her? But even then, Otto, did Natsuki-san reject it? Al, to be honest, I couldn't believe my ears. Originally, I was thinking that he had some lil stranger girl with him, but then I found out that she was a sinner archbishop. He was trying to protect her with his body. I thought I knew that Bro had a lot of crazy ideas, but he exceeded my imagination. As he said this, Al's gaze shot through his helmet at Louis. Under the gaze, Louis groaned but instead of hiding behind Medium and the others, she looked straight back at him. The light in those blue eyes was neither dull nor feeble. Otto, as he watched, Otto examined Al's testimony. Otto himself believed that the reason Subaru was not able to get his hands on Louis was naivete. The naivete that Subaru and Emilia possessed was both a weakness and a strength. Once you let go of it, you can never get it back, and even though Otto felt like it was difficult to handle, he never wanted it to be gone. Otto, we, the people around us, can make decisions without such naivete. Al, I understand, Bro. But it's hard now. After all, we're talking in front of all these people. There is no going back from that. Frederica, Otto-sama. Frederica stepped firmly and called out to Otto's profile. Her beautiful eyes flickered with concern and anxiety at the prospect of taking action here. Otto also felt that it was a mistake to mention the identity of Louis here. No, to start with, the problem was that Louis had already been accepted by the people involved. Tarita and Myzelda's resolution became prevalent in the fortress city. Therefore, Otto, so, you are saying you are just going to let her roam free? Al, sure, I wouldn't have forgiven her if she'd done something wrong. But, Medium, Louis-chan was always trying to protect Subaru-chin. She never misbehaved while she was with us. She never will. Medium raised a frantic voice, taking in Al's words. Her statement was just wishful thinking, and Louis's actions to date did not guarantee what Louis would do in the future. That was the biggest focal point of the issue. Petra, I watched the master do it, so maybe I can make an oath magic seal. Otto. We should not do that. I thought, for a moment, that was possible. Petra hesitantly suggested the idea, but Otto rejected it. Petra spoke of a magic seal, a binding of the soul to make the recipient keep their word, something Roswell has inscribed on his body that, if broken, would kill him. Roswell, as the mastermind behind the events that occurred in the sanctuary and at the former Roswell mansion, personally inscribed it to demonstrate his surrender to the camp. As the words suggested, magic seal was clearly magic. Superstitious as it may seem, some say that magic would eventually rebound on the user. If one continued to bind others through magic, the magic would eventually burn one's soul as well. He had no intention of having Petra take on such a burden, and even if she were able to do so and inscribe a magic seal that would bind Louis' actions, it would be no more than insurance. Otto, because we do not have a full picture of what we can bind to buy us peace of mind. The authority of a Sin Archbishop, no one knew its full extent, as long as they did not know what hidden curveballs would be thrown out. Ultimately, no matter how they were bound, Otto's wariness of Louis could never be lifted. That is, unless they took a life. If so, then not making use of anything like a magic seal, which could lead them to carelessness, was what would keep their vigilance steady. Otto, regrettably, that is my conclusion. Garfield, Ottobro. You're sure about that? That's a Sin Archbishop. Hearing Otto's thoughts, Garfield raised his voice in a scream. Even though he was absolutely right, Otto understood the frustration of being forced into a situation where he felt he was being stifled, wanting to empathize with his younger brother's heartache. Otto, however, discussing it here will not get everyone's approval. With the current situation in which there is still a lot left to be heard, I do not wish for things to break down with all of you. Priscilla, therefore, if we are to use force, it should be after hearing what they have to say, correct? How obstinate. Otto, I do not intend to do such a rash thing, but I will take that in itself as a compliment. Priscilla Summer. When Priscilla brilliantly expressed Otto's sentiment, he at least attempted to put up a good front. Whatever the case, to Garfield, the answer was a frustrating reality. Abel, who has considerable influence in the city, and the people of the Shadrach, who have shown their non-negotiable stance on the treatment of Louis, there was no way to dissuade them. There was no basis for eliminating Louis beyond her being a Sin Archbishop. Since that did not work, there would be no other recourse remaining on their side but to use force. However, killing Louis would not necessarily erase the effects of Gluttony's authority, and would it be worth it to have the disadvantage of turning all of the Empire against them thereafter? Emilia, fighting like that just makes all of us a little less anxious. That's how it is, right? Otto and Garfield. Garfield, fangs gnashing, and Otto with one eye closed. Emilia's amethyst eyes flashed as she traced the flow of the conversation and came to this conclusion. Beatrice, in her arms, called out her name, Emily. Emilia, I'm sorry, Lady Beatrice. You're worried a lot, I know you are. Beatrice, as long as you understand properly, good, I suppose. They exchanged glances and words very close to each other, and Beatrice's round eyes were downcast. Emilia nodded her head, understanding Beatrice's feelings, and turned her gaze toward Louis and Medium. The girl who leans on her like a sister returned her gaze. Emilia, that little girl. Louis might be really dangerous. That's just what Otto Kuhn and the others have said, and you know that, don't you? Medium, yeah, I know. Emilia, but you didn't see Louis do anything that was dangerous or bad. Did Louis do anything to you or Subaru? Medium, yeah, she tried to protect us. It's true, I'm not lying. Isn't that right? Abel Chin, All-Chin, Tarata-chan, and Yorna-chan, staring directly at Emilia, Medium was trying her best to choose the right words. As she decided, she asked those who had returned from the Demon City with her to agree. Abel and Yorna, both still recovering from their earlier exchange with Priscilla, reacted sluggishly, but Al shrugged and Tarata nodded. Tarata, yes, Louis certainly tried to protect everyone. She was very fond of Subaru, in my opinion. Otto, I would say as expected of the Lilimancer, but the atmosphere's not one that can be joked about like that. Beatrice, that moniker, Betty does not like it very much, in fact. Be careful, I suppose. Beatrice's disgruntled, low voice slightly relaxed the hostilities that had been present just up till a moment ago. Perhaps Beatrice had decided to leave it to Emilia's judgment as to how to proceed with Louis. Even with the same conclusion, Emilia would softly adjust it to what Otto and Beatrice had presented. Then, Emilia spoke, looking at Louis. Emilia, you were concerned about Subaru. I don't believe that's a lie. So, I want to believe in you as much as this girl who is trying so hard to believe in you. Garfield, HK, Emilia Summer, she's, Emilia, even Garfield was so biting towards us at first. But now he's really good friends with us, isn't he? Emilia's discourse was a bit disingenuous, given that Garfield and Louis were in different positions and under different circumstances. However, when Emilia said it, it was true that it was hard to respond back. As the situation progressed, Garfield's cheeks hardened in bitterness. Emilia's response was a small apologetic sorry. Emilia, it might be difficult. But I think it's best to start there, if you can talk about it properly, instead of going all in and just being so hostile at the beginning. Of course, sometimes you have to be hostile from the start. Garfield, Emilia, I'm here with all of you, and I think it would be nice if everyone here could get along with me. I want to tell them that I want to be friends with them. For that, I have to open my clenched hand first. Saying this, Emilia looked down at Beatrice in her arms. Beatrice looked at her gently and then gave a small nod. Seeing Beatrice's nod, Emilia slowly stepped forward, right in front of Yorna, past the glaring Garfield, and in front of the small medium sheltering little Louis behind her back. And then, Emilia, this is really a roundabout way of saying this, but I believe in Zika-san and my Zelda-san and others who have been so kind to Subaru and Rem, and I want to believe Medium-chan and everyone else who believes in them. So please let me believe in you, who Medium-chan believes in. Louis, you, Emilia, not us, but for these children that are being very nice to you, it's really nice to know that there are people who believe in you. As she said this, Emilia gently held out her right hand to Louis, with Beatrice being held with her left hand. The seated Emilia moved toward Louis. Emilia's action made even Medium, who was trying to protect Louis, suddenly move toward her. Emilia, Louis-chan, and so she called out to them. Perhaps it was her call, or perhaps Emilia's words had some meaning for the absent-minded Sin Archbishop, that prompted Louis to extend her hand. As Emilia held out her right hand, Louis placed her own right hand on top of hers. Otto was momentarily concerned about the possibility of the authority being activated on Emilia as a result of this, but Otto regrets this concern and feels that he should despise it with all his heart. Either way, Louis, wow, Emilia, I'm worried about Subaru, too. Embracing each other's hands, Emilia smiled in reply, and that was the resolution for both Otto and Emilia's camp. The conclusion was put on hold. However, Otto was proud of Emilia, because even though the pitfalls were the same, the way Emilia said it and the way he would have said it would have been different. Garfield, my amazing self won't take my eyes off of you know. Regarding the handling of Louis, it had been decided to placed on hold. In response to that, Garfield, who until the very end, had declared that he could not accept it, asserted his stance towards Emilia and the girl she had shaken hands with. Since Garfield's concerns and warnings were natural, Otto would not interject. Otto, a witch cultist, let alone a Sin Archbishop, is not something I can imagine changing their ways. After all, Otto's dry, pragmatic thinking came to that conclusion, even if it had been a touching historic exchange between Emilia and Louis. However, while he thought that it was not like himself, Otto had also thought this. The defeats of the White Whale, the Great Rabbit, and the Sin Archbishops of Sloth and Greed had also been unimaginable. It had been Natsuki Subaru who had, in little over a year, brought these things about many times. The world saw these as achievements of the Emilia camp, but everyone in the camp understood that Subaru's contributions were especially significant. Therefore, he had to thoroughly consider the possibility. It might have been that, once again, Natsuki Subaru had done something unthinkable. Otto, I do not like it. The question of how the people around them would evaluate Subaru, when that actually happened, had him feeling crestfallen. He thought that others should also get to know Subaru's true humanity quickly. Zika, once the discussion has settled down, if I may, in the large hall where the mood of the discussion had relaxed, Zika had raised his hand and, with those words, began to speak. Having drawn attention to himself, he gave the preface of "with your permission" to his remarks. Zika, although I am very interested in the relationship between Miss Priscilla and General First Class Yorna, there are some things I want to first confirm with Abel Dono. Abel. You may speak. Zika, yes. Abel, who had been keeping his mouth shut, assented when this topic had arisen. Although he had not interjected regarding how Louis would be handled, it seemed he had put a brief pause to the shock from before. Having been addressed, he gazed at Zika, his black eyes urging him to continue speaking. Zika, I am aware that General First Class Yorna's cooperation has been acquired, and that the collapse of Demon City of Chaos Flame. That as a result, Miss Natsumi has fallen into danger. What I wanted to inquire additionally was about a rumor that has spread over the past few days. Abel, a rumor. Zika, yes. The rumor that somewhere, the child of His Excellency the Emperor, a crown prince of black hair, is present. Zika reverently bowed his head, as he informed Abel, that rumor, one which alluded to the existence of the son of the Emperor Vincent Volachia, had been spread, and had even reached Otto's ears. On top of that, the rumor said that the Emperor's son had a rebel army, that is to say, he was the leader of the group gathered at the fortress city of Garel, and that he was flying the banner of revolt against the Emperor, or something of the like. However, he did not remember seeing anyone who had looked like that in the city. Zika, according to the reports, this rumor had spread from the east. It has already spread all over the empire, but its source, Abel, it is as you have guessed, it was spread from the Demon City. It takes power to threaten the throne. And power will only gather under a great cause. With his arms crossed and shaking his head slowly, Abel answered dispassionately. That answer was convincing, but in the first place, an effort to threaten the Emperor's throne was not an issue their camp really wanted to be involved with. As for Otto, his focus had turned to how to curb the possibility that Emilia would say she could not abandon these people, having met them once. Due to that, it could be said that he was late in noticing the possibilities he normally would have noticed. Therefore, a black-haired, crown prince, Petra, who seemed to be pondering, was the one who had muttered that bit by bit. She had been brooding over something, forming a small crease on her pretty eyebrows. Then, she timidly expressed her thoughts. Those were, Petra, according to what Medium San and the others had said earlier, Subaru became smaller, right? Like me or Beatrice-chan, Frederica, that is what has been said. I cannot really imagine it, but if it was Subaru, it is possible to have encountered such a misfortune. Otto, nodding at Petra's words, Frederica's eyes widened as she sorted through the information. Almost simultaneously with Frederica's realization, Otto had also understood what Petra had been thinking, and now, he had to curse how irrelevant his own thinking had been. Petra, could it be that the rumored child of the Emperor is Subaru? In the place of Otto, who had cursed that possibility, Petra had directly cut to the heart of the matter. Unmoving, the girl's eyes were fixed on Abel, and through the Oni mask, his black eyes met them. Without the slightest waver, Abel calmly nodded in assent to Petra's questioning. Abel, correct. Petra, HK, something like that. With the look in her eyes sharpening at that short answer, Petra had tried to raise her voice. However, faster than Petra could respond. Coo, ha 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 ha. Like so, a wholeheartedly amused voice resounded. Laughter that had not paid heed to the circumstances, shattered the mood in the large chamber. However, the reason no one could raise their voice immediately after that outburst was because that loud laughter was Priscilla's. She held a fan to her mouth, as if to not show her teeth while she laughed. Priscilla, of all things, that foolish commoner as the crown prince, that makes me laugh. Abel, do you plan to kill myself with laughter? You have considerably changed your way of doing things, have you not? Princess, Priscilla, what is it? You should laugh as well, No, did you also take part in this conspiracy? If so, how skillfully have you made myself laugh? I must say you have performed the duties of a clown splendidly. Turning towards a surprised Priscilla looked pleased while commending him. The unpredictability of Priscilla's reaction had temporarily taken away the zeal in the large chamber. Of course, that did not mean it had erased all the confusion. Emilia, what do you mean? There's no way that Subaru is the Emperor's child, right? After all, Subaru came from beyond the Great Cascade. Frederica, Emily, that is one of Subaru Summer's jokes. Emilia, is that so? Then, for real, Otto, as for the question of whether he is a child of the Emperor, it is not true. A fabrication, Emilia, A, a dizzied Emilia expressed that she did not understand a thing. In short, Subaru's infantilization and the goal of Abel's group had luckily aligned. Frederica, to be precise, I think it would be more proper to say they made use of it once it happened. Otto agreed with what Frederica had said, that this had been an effective use of the situation. When Abel and the others had raised a rebellion, they wanted a good pretext like that. To act as a figurehead for that purpose, there was no one more convincing than the Emperor's child. Of course, it was quite possible that using someone who did not exist as the leader would be a double-edged sword. Otto, since Natsuki-san does really exist, do you intend to use him as a double-edged sword? Abel, an insolent manner of speaking, but it is to my liking. In that case, you should also understand. Otto, though, it is frustrating. Rightfully, Otto and the others would be justified in resenting Subaru's circumstances being exploited. However, although his reply that it was frustrating was not a lie, it was true that there was a certain noticeable value in the course of events Abel had devised. That was because, Frederica, for Subaru Summer, whose whereabouts are unknown, it would cause the likelihood of him losing his life to be greatly reduced. Otto, yes, Otto nodded bitterly at Frederica's understanding. Emilia and Garfield were slow in comprehending Otto and Frederica's thoughts. With the two showing their confusion on their faces, they racked their brains and asked, "What does that mean?" Emilia, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but, Garfield, I get that Captain's been given a weird title. What, wouldn't making him the captain of the rebellion be even more dangerous? Otto, no, it would draw attention, but the threats to his life would be lightened more or less. Because the value of the Crown Prince can only be effectively demonstrated while he is alive, the Crown Prince, a dissident threatening the reign of Vincent Wallachia, this existence within the rebel cause had utilizable value to both allies and enemies of the current emperor. It goes without saying for the rebelling side, but if he was kept alive there were many ways to use him on the emperor's side as well. Executing him would dampen the spirits of the rebel army, while a living crown prince could be used to force them to give up their righteous cause. Otto, that is to say, no matter where Natsuki-san was hurled off to, and even if he was taken into custody, the likelihood of him avoiding being killed on the spot is high. Instead of that, Emilia, instead of that, Otto, the struggle for the Wallachian throne, any way out of this rebellion has vanished. Receiving a blessing goes hand in hand with having to bear responsibilities, regardless of whether he wished for it or not. Subaru was right in the middle of the rebellion of the Wallachian Empire, at the highest position, placed as the figurehead. For that reason, Priscilla, well, how can you not help but laugh? And with those words, they could finally guess why Priscilla, who had gotten the answer well before, was cruelly laughing.